Good day everyone, we are the Group 4 and we are tasked to discuss the Module 3, the first mass site in the Philippines.
Site of the first mass in the Philippines, Limasawa. Antonio Pigafetta, member of the expedition and was the eyewitness of the principal events. Primo Viaggio en Tomo al Mundo, or the first voyage around the world, most complete account of the Magellan expedition. His report, which is the first voyage around the world, includes the earliest documents available on the language and culture of the island of Samar and Cebu. Pigafetta's testimony regarding the route. First, on March 16, Saturday, Magellan's expedition sighted a highland named Zamal. Second, on March 17, Sunday, they landed another island which was uninhabited, Hamonhon, located at 10 degrees north latitude. Third, Fernando Magallanes named the entire archipelago Philippine as Las Islas de San Lazaro. Fourth, March 18, Monday, they saw a boat coming with 9. The fifth one, they saw indication of gold in Humonhon. Magellan renamed the island as Aquada Ladi Bound Signili, or means watering place of good omen. 6. March 22 on Friday. Native returned bringing the food supplies as promised. 7. March 17 to 25. Magellan expedition stay in the Humonhon for 8 days. 9. The route they taken after leaving Humonhon was towards west and southwest. 8. March 25 on Monday. The expedition left Humonhon. Pigafetta got an accident. 10. March 28 on Thursday, they anchored off in Limasawa Island where the previous night they had seen in a light or a bonfire. 11. They remained in Limasawa Island for 7 days. April 4, Thursday, they left Limasawa bound for Cebu. 13. At Gatighan, they sailed westward to the 3 islands of the Camotes groups. 14. From the Camotes Island, they sailed southwest towards Cebu. 15. April 7 on Sunday, at noon, they entered the harbor of Cebu. Magellan's expedition. On March 16, 1521, Ferdinand Magellan's expedition landed on Humonhon Island in the Philippines. He was the first European to reach the island. On March 17, 1521, Magellan and his crew first came into contact with inhabitants of the Humonhon Island, which would later become part of the archipelago known as the Philippines. They soon proceeded to Limasawa, where the first Catholic Mass in the Philippines was celebrated. Raha Humabon was friendly with Magellan and embraced Christianity, but their enemy Lapu-Lapu was not. Father Pedro de Valderrama officiated the first Catholic Mass in the Philippines, held on Easter Sunday of March 3, 1521 in the shore of a town islet named Limasawa, in the tip of a southern Leyte. Limasawa is dubbed as the birthplace of the Roman Catholicism in the Philippines. Magellan's expedition was considered historic because it marked the first circumnavigation of the globe and proved that the world was round. Villalobos Expedition. Roy Lopez de Villalobos set sail for the Philippines from Navidad, Mexico on November 1, 1542. Villalobos is remembered for naming our country as Las Islas Filipinas in honor of King Charles, son Prince Philip, who later became King of Spain. Legazpi Expedition. New expedition headed by Miguel Lopez de Legazpi, accompanied by Andres de Ordanita. In 1564, Legazpi was commissioned by the Viceroy to lead a naval expedition across the Pacific to establish a colony in the Philippines and discover the long south return sea route from Asia to Americas.
Cavite Mutiny of 1872. The Cavite Mutiny is an important event in the history because its occurrence led to the execution of the three martyr Filipino Catholic priests, Fathers Mariano Gomez, Jose Borges, and Jacinto Zamora, who were given the name Gomborza. The three priests were executed by the Spanish colonial authorities on charges of subversion arising from the 1872 Cavite Mutiny. This execution became a major factor in the awakening of nationalism among the Filipinos. Jose Rizal even dedicated his second novel entitled El Filibusterismo to the three martyrs. There are two versions of the Cavite Mutiny that happened in 1872. First, a planned conspiracy against the Spanish regime. Second, as a response to injustice done to the Filipinos at that time. Narrative from the National Historical Commission of the Philippines written by Piedad Pugay 2012. 1872 Cavite Mutiny Spanish Perspective. Jose Montero y Vidal, a prolific Spanish historian, documented the event and highlighted it as an attempt of the Indios to overthrow the Spanish government in the Philippines. Meanwhile, Governor Gen. Rafael Izquierdo's official report magnified the event and made use of it to implicate the native clergy, which was then active in the call for secularization. 1872 Cavite Mutiny Spanish Perspective. The event of 1872 was conspiracy between educated leaders, mestizos, abogadillos, or native lawyers, residents of the Manila and Cavite, and the native clergy. The Gomborza were executed by the Spanish government and philocracia to instill fear in Filipinos, shaping Filipino nationalism. A response to injustice, the Filipino version of the incident. Dr. Trinidad Hermenegildo Pardo de Tavera, a Filipino scholar and researcher, wrote the Filipino version of the bloody incident in Cavite. In his point of view, the incident was a mere mutiny by the native Filipino soldiers and laborers of the Cavite arsenal who turned out that dissatisfied with the abolition of their privileges. Indirectly, Tavera blamed Governor Izquierdo's cold-blooded policies such as the abolition of privileges of the workers and native army members of the arsenal and the prohibition of the founding of School of Arts and Trades for the Filipinos, which the general believed as a cover-up for the organization of a political club. On January 20, 1872, about 200 men comprised of soldiers, laborers of the arsenal and residents of Cavite, headed by Sergeant Lamadrid, rose in arms and assassinated the commanding officer and Spanish officers inside. The insurgents were expecting support from the bulk of the army. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. The news about the mutiny reached authorities in Manila, and General Izquierdo immediately ordered the reinforcement of Spanish troops in Cavite. After 2 days, the mutiny was officially declared subdued. Tavera believed that the Spanish friars and Izquierdo used the Cavite Mutiny as a powerful lever by magnifying it is a full-blown conspiracy involving not only the native army but also included residents of Cavite and Manila, and more importantly, the native clergy to overthrow the Spanish government in the Philippines. It is noteworthy that during the time, the central government in Madrid announced its intention to deprive the friars of all the powers of intervention in matters of civil government and the direction and management of educational institutions. This turnout of event was believed by Tavera prompted the friars to do something drastic in their desire to maintain power in the Philippines. Meanwhile, in the intention of installing reforms, the central government of Spain welcomed an educational decree authored by Sigismundo Moret promoted the fusion of sectarian schools run by the friars into a school called Philippine Institute. The decree proposed to improve the standard of education in the Philippines by requiring teaching positions in such schools to be filled by competitive examinations. This improvement was warmly received by most Filipinos in spite of the native clergy's zest for secularization. The friars, fearing that their influence in the Philippines would be a thing of the past, took advantage of the incident and presented it to the Spanish government as a vast conspiracy organized throughout the archipelago with the object of destroying Spanish sovereignty. Tavera sadly confirmed that the Madrid government came to believe that the scheme was true without any attempt to investigate the real facts or extent of the alleged revolution reported by Izquierdo and the friars. Convicted educated men who participated in the mutiny were sentenced life imprisonment, while members of the native clergy headed by Gomborza were tried and executed by Garrote. This episode leads to the awakening of nationalism and eventually to the outbreak of the Philippine Revolution of 1896. The French writer Edmond Latreut's account complemented Tavera's account by confirming that the event happened due to discontentment of the arsenal workers and soldiers in Cavite Fort. The Frenchman, however, dwelt more on the execution of the three martyr friars, which he actually witnessed.
Unraveling the truth. Considering the four accounts of the 1872 mutiny, there were some basic facts that remain to be unvarying. First, there was disaffection among the workers of the arsenal as well as the member of the native army after they were drawn back by General Izquierdo. So, after General Izquierdo forced them back, there was unrest among both of the arsenal staff and the native army. Second, General Izquierdo introduced rigid and strict policies that made the Filipinos move and turn away from Spanish government out of disgust. So the strict and rigid policies that General Izquierdo promoted enraged the Filipinos and pushed them to act like a rebel against the Spanish government. Third, the central government failed to conduct an investigation on what truly transpired but relied on reports of Izquierdo and the friars and the opinion of the public. The central government relied on reports from Izquierdo and the friars and popular opinion rather than conducting an investigation into what had occurred. Fourth, the happy days of the friars were already numbered in 1872 when the central government in Spain decided to deprive them of the power to intervene in the government affair as well as the direction and management of school, prompting them to commit frantic moves to extend their stay in power. So the friars' good times came to an end in 1872 when the Spanish government chose to strip them of their authority to influence political decision in the management of the school, which had allowed them to take steps to expand their influence over society. Fifth, the Filipino clergy member activity participated in the secularization movement in order to allow Filipino priests to take hold the parishes in the country, making them prey to the rage of the friars. So, to enable Filipino priests to lead the parishes across the nation that feel prey to friars' anger, members of the Filipino clergy joined the secularization movement. Sixth, Filipinos during the time that were active participants and responded to what they deemed as injustice, and Filipinos at that time took part actively and protested what they saw as injustice. Lastly, the execution of Gamboza was a blunder of the part of the Spanish government, for the action severed the ill feelings of the Filipinos, and the event inspired Filipino patriots to call for reform and eventually independence. There may be different versions of the event, but one thing is certain: the 1872 Cavite Monity paved way for a momentous 1898. So, the Spanish government made a mistake by executing Gamboza, since it listened Filipino animosity toward him and inspired the country of political parties to demand reform and eventually independence. Life, works, and writings of Dr. Jose P. Rizal, Republic Act 1425, A. Laws commemorating Rizal. Decree of December 20, 1898, issued by General Emilio Aguinaldo, declared December 30 of every year a day of national mourning in honor of Dr. Jose P. Rizal and other victims of the Philippine Revolution. Act number 137 was the first official step taken by the Taft Commission to honor our greatest hero and martyr. Republic Act number 137, an act to prohibit cockfighting, horse racing, and Ajay-Alay games on the 4th of July of each year. Republic Act 1425. The Rizal Law, officially designed as Republic Act number 1425, is a Philippine law that mandates all the educational institution in the Philippines to offer courses about Jose Rizal. B. Poems. Mi Ultimo Adios, Ang Huling Paalam, My Last Farewell, translate by Andres Bonifacio. My Last Farewell is a poem written by Filipino propagandist and the writer Dr. Jose Rizal before his execution by firing squad on December 30, 1896. Sa Aking Kabata, translate as Sa Kabataang Pilipino to the Filipino Youth, first poem of Rizal. Sa Aking Kabata is a poem about the love of one's native language written in Tagalog. It is widely attributed to the Filipino national hero Jose Rizal. A la Juventud Filipina, translated as To My Fellow Children. A la Juventud Filipina is a poem written in Spanish by Filipino writer and poet Jose Rizal, first presented in 1879 in Manila. Mi Retiro, translated as My Retreat. Mi Retiro is a poem of longing and sadness, as would be expected of an exile, but these strong emotions are woven around Rizal's descriptions of the interconnected webs of life around him and nature. Mi Primera Inspiration, translated as My First Inspiration. Mi Primera Inspiration was the first poem written by Dr. Jose Rizal during his third academic year in Ateneo de Municipal, a las Flores de Heidelberg. is a poem of loneliness, longing, and homesickness written by Filipino nationalist Jose Rizal when he was in the Heidelberg.
C. Essays to the young woman of Malolos o sa kababaihang taga Malolos. Written in 1889, Rizal pays homage to the 20 courageous women of the town for their desire to educate themselves. The indolence of the Filipinos. Rizal admits that indolence does exist among the Filipinos, but it cannot be attributed to the troubles and backwardness of the country. Rather, it is the effect of the backwardness and troubles experienced by the country. According to Rizal, all the causes of indolence can be reduced to two factors. The first factor is the limited training and education Filipino natives receive, or the defect of training segregated from the Spaniards. Filipinos do not receive the same opportunities that are available to the foreigner. Filipinos are thought to be inferior. The second factor is the lack of unity among all Filipinos natives, or the lack of national sentiment of unity among them. Because Filipinos think that they are inferior, they submit to the foreign culture and do everything to imitate it. The Philippines a century hence present a radical prophecy of Rizal on how the Philippines would be taught through the century. D. Novels. First, No Limitang Here. Translated as Touch Me Not, taken from the Bible, John chapter 20, verse 17. Touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father, or by King James Version. Translated by Pascual Poblete in Filipino. Writing. Purpose. Expose the abuses of the Spanish friars and government officials. Claim. It was a fictitious description of the oppressed condition of his countrymen. Father Vicente Garcia, a Catholic theologian of the Manila Cathedral, staunch defender of Rizal, wrote a very scholarly defense of the No Limitang Here. 2. El Filibusterismo. Translations. Treason. Dedicated to the secular press Mariano Gomez, Jose Burgos, and Jacinto Zamora o Gomborza, who were implicated by the Spanish authorities in the Cavite Mutiny. Writing. Purpose. Ideal means of achieving social reform. No Limitang Here. A socio-historical novel. El Filibusterismo, a political novel, romantic novel, work of the heart, book of a thought, work of the head, a passionate expose about the evils of the Spanish friars. Predicted the coming of the revolution. Crisostomo Ibarra, for Reformation. Simon, Revolution.
Trivia about Dr. Jose Rizal. His full name is Jose Protasio Rizal Mercado A. Alonzo Realunda. He is born on June 19, 1861. Approximately 35 years old before the fateful day or before he died. He is the seventh of the 11 children and born to a relatively well-off family. He was born in Calamba, Laguna. His father is Francisco Mercado Rizal, a productive farmer of Binyan, Laguna. His mother is Teodora Alonzo A. Quintos, an educated and highly cultured woman from Santa Cruz, Manila. The educational background of Jose Rizal. His first teacher is his mother, where he learned to read, and Rizal valued reading as means for learning and spending one's time meaningfully. He studied his elementary days in Binyan, Laguna, guided by Justiniano Aquino Cruz, and he attended his secondary education in Ateneo Municipal or Ateneo de Manila University. When Rizal got in his tertiary education, he studied his philosophy and letters in University of Santo Tomas in 1877, and he studied land surveying in Ateneo Municipal in 1877. and Rizal passed the licensing exam in May 1878, but the license was granted in 1881 when he reached the age of majority. He studied medicine and first go for his degree at the University of Santo Tomas in 1878. Rizal's greatest resentment during his student days that motivated him to work harder was the racial discrimination. But Rizal discontinued his medical schooling in UST because of the racial discrimination by the Dominican friars against Filipino students. Rizal finished his medicine at Universidad Central de Madrid. The reason why Rizal took ophthalmology because he wanted to cure his mother's advancing blindness. He finished his eye specialization in Heidelberg, Germany. Though Rizal finished his medicine, but he was not awarded for his diploma in medicine because he was not able to submit the thesis required for graduation, and he was not able to pay the corresponding fees. The first woman who captured Rizal's romantic inspiration is Segunda Katigbak, when he was 16 years old. In the last days of February in 1895, while still in Dapitan, Rizal met an 18 years old girl with bold blue eyes, brown hair, and a happy disposition who came to Dapitan to seek Rizal for eye treatment, and she was Josephine Bracken. Rizal married to Josephine Bracken in his prison cell in Port Santiago in Intramuros, Manila. Rizal left a book as a gift before he was executed entitled The Imitation of Christ by Thomas A. Kempis. In March 1887, he published in Berlin his first controversial novel, The Noli Me Tangere, which revealed the tyranny and arrogance of the Spanish clergy and officials in the Philippines. He annotated and reprinted in Paris Morga Successus de las Islas Filipinas to bring to light that the Filipinos had an impressive civilization even long before the Spanish colonization. On September 18, 1891, Rizal's more militant novel, El Filibusterismo, was printed in Ghent, Belgium.
Works of Dr. Jose Rizal. One of the leaders of the literacy and cultural organization propaganda movement, the Patriotic Society Asociación La Solidaridad or Solidaridad Association, founded the La Liga Filipina, a civic organization that subsequently gave birth to the Katipunan. So Dr. Jose Rizal is one of the leaders of the Asociación La Solidaridad, and this association, or the Association La Solidaridad, is a literacy and cultural organization propaganda movement. He also founded the La Liga Filipina. Ang kaning La Liga Filipina, it is a civic organization that gave birth to the Katipunan. So as we all know, Katipunan is literally an association or gathering. It is officially known as the Kataas-Taasan Kagalang-Galangang Katipunan ng Mga Anak ng Bayan or the KKK. Then the aims of La Liga Filipina is to unite the whole archipelago into one compact, vigorous, and homogeneous body, mutual protection in every want and necessity, defense against all violence and injustice, encouragement of instruction, agriculture, and commerce, and study the application of reforms. Greciano Lopez Heina, founder and editor of La Solidaridad, Fray Butod, a narrative where he exposed the extreme greed, laziness, cruelty, and lust of the friars. So, kaning Fray Butod, it is written by Greciano Lopez Heina, and then this introduces the stereotypical Spanish friar who uses religion as a tool for oppressing others. Then Diego Laura, pen name when he went back to the Philippines to solicit more aid for the propaganda movement. So ang gigamit nga pen name ni Heyna is Jago Laura, in which kani nga name gigamit niya pagbalik niya sa Pilipinas para mag-solicit siya og aid for the propaganda movement. Marcelo H. Del Pilar assumed editorship of the La Solidaridad after Graciano Lopez Heyna became the leader of propagandists in Spain. Diaryong Tagalog, first bilingual newspaper which he established. Plaridel Dolores Manapat Piping Dilat. So, kani si Marcelo H. Del Pilar, he assumed the editorship of La Solidaridad. It is after Graciano Lopez Heyna. Then, he also became the leader of propagandists in Spain, and the first bilingual newspaper nga iyang established is ang Diaryong Tagalog. The pen names na iyang ginagamit are Plaridel, Dolores Manapat, and Piping Dilat. Jose Rizal was imprisoned in Fort Santiago from July 6 to July 15, 1892. Exiled to the Pitan, Zamboanga del Norte, Governor General Eulogio Despojol ordered his deportation to the Pitan. July 30, 1896, he received permission from Governor General Ramon Blanco to become a volunteer military physician in the revolution in Cuba. August 26, 1896, Katipunan started the Philippine Revolution. Powerful people whose animosity Rizal had provoked took the opportunity to implicate him to the rebellion. After a trial in a kangaroo court, he was convicted of rebellion and sentenced to death by firing squad at Bagumbayan Field, which is now Luneta. Trial. December 20, 1896, Rizal, together with his counsel, Lieutenant Luis Taviel de Andrade, of the Spanish artillery, prepared for his defense. On December 25, Rizal was informed that on the following day at 10 a.m., the Council of War would convene. On December 26, at the Cuartel General de España, a soldier's dormitory was converted into an improvised courtroom. December 28, Governor General Camilo de Polavieja approved the sentence and execution of Rizal. December 29, Judge Dominguez went to Fort Santiago to notify Rizal officially of the sentence. Rizal read the report or verdict but refused to sign it, stating that he was innocent. Execution. December 30, 1896 at Bagumbayan, which is now Luneta, 6:30 a.m., Rizal was dressed in black coat and trousers and a white shirt and waistcoat. Rizal was tied elbow to elbow but held up his head in a chistera or bowler hat. He walked from Fort Santiago, where he was incarcerated, and walked along the Paseo Maria Cristina, which is now Bonifacio Drive. He walked between two Jesuits, Father Estanislao March and Father Jose Villaclara. Saluyo niya was the brother of his former bodyguard, which are Don Jose Taviel de Andrade, Lieutenant Luis Taviel de Andrade, who had vainly defended him in affairs masquerading as a trial. When everyone was in place, there was a slight delay because Rizal refused the customary blindfold and asked to face the firing squad, which is wala siya gi-approve. The Spanish captain who had guided Rizal to the site insisted that he be shot in the back as ordered because he was a traitor to Spain. Rizal declared that he had never been a traitor to the country of his birth or to Spain. After some coaching, Rizal finally turned his back but again refused the blindfold and furthermore refused to kneel. Rizal made one last request, that the executioners spare his head and shot him in the back towards the heart. And kaninga request niya is, it was granted. A Spanish military doctor felt Rizal's pulse and was surprised to find it regular and normal. The Jesuits raised the crucifix to his face and lips, but Rizal turned his head away and silently prepared to meet death. When the captain finally brought down the order to fire, or Figo, Rizal shouted the last two words of the crucified Christ, which is consummatum est, or in English, it is done. The shots rang out and Rizal executed that carefully choreographed twist that he had practiced years before, which made him fall face up on the ground. Rizal was given the tiro de gracia, one last merciful shot in the head at close range to make sure he was really dead. So, ang kaning tiro de gracia is, it is one last merciful shot in the head at close range and to make sure nga patay na jud siya. 7:03 a.m. The show was over. Rizal was declared dead. So the exact time when Rizal was declared dead was at 7:03 a.m. Burial site. So after the execution, Rizal's body was placed in a van and with utmost secrecy. Rizal was buried in the old Paco Cemetery in Manila. Si Teodora Alonzo wanted to comply with the last wish of Rizal that the family take charge of his remains. And then it was agreed and kato nga petition ni Teodora Alonzo, it was agreed by Civil Governor Manuel Luengo. However, when the funeral coach left, they had already secretly taken the body away, and Rizal's sister Narcisa went to all the cemeteries of Manila looking for the remains in vain. Number 1. Jose Rizal was buried in unconsecrated ground between the outer and inner wall of Paco Cemetery. Number 2. Jose Rizal was laid to earth bare without a coffin. And number 3, Jose Rizal's grave was initially unmarked. Pen names. Ang pen names nga ginagamit do Dr. Jose Rizal was Laong Laan and Dimas Alang. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you so much for giving an attention. You can now proceed in answering the activities.